The shape of the Xtrfy MZ1 was designed by a real legend in the game, Rykoa, the rocket jump ninja, a true king of aim theory. What? They sound cracked. Oh, they totally are, with 21 years of experience playing Quake at the most competitive of levels. Well, they must be something. How many competitions have they won? Isn't it the taking part that really matters? The MZ1 Wireless, or MZ1 Dub, as we're going to call it for the rest of this review, isn't a mouse made for everyone. To be honest, it was really only made for one Aussie with elven hands and a penchant for feather-light peripherals. Despite this, it seems to have developed a bit of a cult following in the Masonic and clandestine fingertip grip cult. Don't ask me about their initiation hazing. And you can kind of see why. The Dub is a flat, lumpy little shape with deep grooves that guide exactly where your finger should go when you hold it. It actually reminded me of the training grips your teachers slide on a pencil for stubby little toddler fingers, and knowing who designed it, that kind of makes sense too. Now, for that kid learning to write, I'm sure holding the pencil for the first time feels weird and uncomfortable, but before long they're sketching phallic doodles in the back of their notepad like a pro. I think that's how I'd like to describe my very own anime character arc that I had when I used the Dub. Initially, I felt that this mouse kind of got in the way, especially in micro adjustments, but before long it started to get lost in my fingertips, and I noticed this especially when swapping back to more conventional and safe shapes like the Logitech G Potato Superlight after spending a lot of time with the Dub in testing. Xtrfy unboxing is about the most Swedish affair you could possibly ask for. Everything is about function, performance and clinical efficiency. I like to think of Sweden as a little bit like Germany, only with personality. In the box you can expect your standard USB-C charging cable with wireless receiver, spare set of PTFE skates, a little, I don't know, we'll call it baby's first screwdriver, some lovely stickers and keycaps destined for an e-waste landfill somewhere, I'm quite sure, and an alternative rear hump, which I'll go into a bit more depth in just a while because I think this is the Dub's real party trick. Initial build impressions are positive, and whilst Xtrfy haven't really ever pushed for the lightest weights or the latest sensor tech in their mice, and that's true here with the specs that you can see on the screen, there is a level of intentionality in their design and build that you absolutely feel once you get an Xtrfy product in your hand. Whilst the wired MZ1 did have some creak on the right side, the Dub seems to have sorted this out entirely. Despite looking a bit like a pasta strainer with the large signature circular holes, it is really well put together. I'd have preferred no holes, but at least they've kept solid areas on the side, so you shouldn't feel them when you grip the mouse, assuming you hold the mouse in the way intended by our Lord and Saviour, Mr. Rykoa. You can buy pre-cut lizard skins from Xtrfy to smooth off the sides and the clicks. It adds quite a bit of width, so you do you if you think that that's a necessity. The side buttons are consistent with the wired version. They're separated, easy to actuate and well positioned. The scroll wheel has defined steps but does sit a little low in the shell, and you do need to climb your way up out of Finger Groove Valley to find it, so bear this in mind if you use the scroll wheel on the regular in your own gameplay. The skates Xtrfy use are 100% PTFE, rounded and have decent thickness, so you should get pretty good durability out of them. They can feel a little bit scratchy and rough, certainly on hybrid and hard pads, but aftermarkets exist already from most major brands if that's going to be a concern of yours. Like the wired V1 before it, the click feel on the Dub remains really stand out considering it's using a GM 8.0 switch, which, whilst premium, isn't really an exotic choice at this point. The button length and small actuation distance makes clicking the mouse feel light, precise, and oddly satisfying actually. Whilst otherwise great choices were made in my opinion in features and assembly, it is kind of unfortunate it still has the, I don't know, call it Xtrfy battery position shuffler, which remains about as wanted and useful as a Mark Zuckerberg OnlyFans page. Now, I've removed this feature in almost every Xtrfy mouse I've got that includes it for the weight save, and if you're confident enough to do the same, they've even been kind enough to give you the tools included with the fun size screwdriver, how-to guide at the end if you need the support. Similarly, the multi-function slider, whilst an example of making the most of a PCB switch, feels unnecessarily complicated. General rule of thumb for me is that if you need a user manual on hand to understand a feature, it probably isn't simple enough in the first place. There is RGB available from dull glow to full zoomer unicorn puke. It will have an impact on your battery life, and honestly I think it's another feature that probably should have been left behind on the wired model. Talking battery life, Xtrfy have bundled a monster 500 mAh battery in the mouse, which could probably use as a backup generator for your house in a power outage. This could be down to having to run the RGB, but drop into a more modest 300 mAh battery like you'd find in other flagships, the G Pro X, the Viper V2 Pro, Final Mouse Starlight 12, or even the G-Wolves HTS Plus would have shaved around 4 or 5 grams from the dub without impacting performance, outside of battery life obviously. If you're interested in making this mod yourself and lowering the battery size, I will include this in our growing How to Pimp Your Dub guide at the end of the video. Parking all these mouse nerd nitpicks to the side, I didn't have any actual complaints when using the mouse what it's intended for, playing video games. I mentioned it isn't likely to be an immediate pick up and play kind of shape, but I'd rather see a range of unique shapes on the market that won't fit everyone than a bunch of safe potatoes with no character that are just trying to please as many people as possible. With the dub being so flat, the closest comparison shapes I could point to are actually a bit niche themselves. If you look at the first third of the mouse, you probably have yourself a heavily grooved Zaunkönig M2K, just a lot more junk in the trunk, so really suited to a fingertip grip player. For my own fingertip grip, the standard hump as seen on the wired MZ1 always limited the full range of micro adjustments as it sort of bumped and grinded against my palm. In my opinion, the biggest and most impactful change on this mouse is the alternate flat hump included exclusively with the dub. This transforms the mouse even further and completely removes the back, turning the mouse into our very own flat booty queen. Not only does it feel entirely different in hand, but opens up such a wider range of fingertip micro adjustments that I'm surprised this wasn't the stock shape that was used on the mouse in the first place. If you want to get really fancy, Xtrfy will sell you the hump and click pieces in an assortment of coloured plastic top shells and triggers to customise your little pancake mouse to your heart's content. There's not really many other mice that you can directly compare the MZ1 shape to. Its flat profile and flared click arches kind of make it most similar to mice like the Starlight 12 Small, or potentially even at a push the Viper Mini, but that really is an at a push comparison. Similarly, you could make a case that the little G-Wolves HSK Plus is a similar fingertip experience, but in all honesty, I think it's quite a compliment to the dub that its shape is so difficult to compare to any other currently available mouse shapes on the market. To wrap, I'm not sure where to place this mouse. Functionally, it's great, delivering a new shape with decent build quality at an acceptable weight. But at $120 at the time of recording, it is quite pricey when you put it up against other comparable mice in its weight category, especially as it's still using a 3370 sensor. It also is definitely not a shape you can just blind buy and know that it will work for you, so in my opinion the price becomes even harder to justify for something you just might not vibe with. I was able to adjust to a point that I found it a comfortable option, and as a mouse nerd I enjoyed the opportunity to just try something new. I also can't really fault the mouse for anything because there isn't anything glaringly wrong with it, but outside of shape and curves, which are kind of subjective, for my own personal needs there are just better options that are either lighter, have a higher pull rate, or no holes, or I guess any combination of the above. If you're my kind of degenerate with 15 mice on your desk and just want to feel something again, then try the dub and knock yourselves out. It is perfect for that. But if you only have the budget for a single purchase of a gaming mouse, the risky shape of the MZ1 does make it a tough pill to swallow. Bonus round! If you bought the dub and want to shave some weight off of the little Aussie pancake, here's how to do it in 4 easy steps. Step 1. Head on over to AliExpress or your battery retailer of choice and acquire yourself a smaller capacity 3-pin JST battery. I personally use a 200 mAh battery as I find it a decent mix of weight and usage life with the RGB turned off. Step 2. Peel the skates carefully if you want to reuse them and use the handy little screwdriver Xtrfy provided to unscrew the base screws and slider, then carefully unclip the mouse from the top shell, making sure to not rip your power ribbon as you do so. Step 3. Dash that old battery weight slider across the room and replace it with your new small boy. Whilst you have the mouse open, you can also unclip the Xtrfy branded RGB diffuser if you want to be that little bit extra. You might need to use a little bit of two-sided adhesive to secure the battery to your mouse so that it doesn't sound like a maraca when you close it back up. Attaching the battery to the back of your sensor is usually a good shout for weight balance. So there you have it, the MZ1 dub, now at just under 52 grams, no cuts, no perma mods. Enjoy using your new diet dub to frag in Quake like it's 1999 with your boy Zai. And I'll see you in the next video.